the Odyssey last night, Christopher Nolan's film, and I thought I'd share a few thoughts because the people I want to talk about this movie with are scattered all over the globe. So we can't sit down over a cup of tea and have a nice, strong discussion. This is going to be full of spoilers, so you might want to turn it off now. Or if you love this film beyond all measure and you just cannot bear to hear any criticism, you also might want to turn it off. But for those who want to brave it out, go make yourself a cup of tea, and I'll wait for you here. Okay, enough waiting. Okay, so what did I think overall? I didn't love it. I wanted to love it. When I heard they were making it, I was just so over the top excited. But I didn't love it. I loved parts of it. And I've already talked to a couple of people who absolutely adored it. They might be the ones who turned this off. And I get why they loved it. I think if I didn't know the original poem, I think I would have liked it a lot more. This is my Robert Fagel's book. I've heard about the Emily Wilson. I'm going to get it because I understand that he based a lot of, or his interpretation was based on her translation. So, and it never hurts to read another translation of Homer. So I should start off by saying that I'm also, I'm not in any way a Homer scholar or Homer expert. I'm a big fan of parts of Homer, especially the Odyssey, the Iliad. Well, although I like it, sometimes Achilles is just a little much. Greatest warrior, no question, greatest warrior in all of Greek history. But yeah, he's a little tempestuous for me. Another thing is, how am I approaching this? And I'm going to say, in the book, probably way too much. So don't make a drinking game of it. Don't take a shot every time I say in the book. You'll be down for the count. I am traditionalist. A friend of mine says I'm traditional rather than calling me conservative, which is probably a good thing. So yeah, I have a reverence for original sources, even though this source has been changed a lot through history in the book. So beware of that. Apart from my traditionalism, some of you will have noticed my swarthy sailor's tan and my sunburned nose, like the sailors out on the Aegean, with this pitiless sun burning down in salt spray, weathering them and turning them bronze and sunburned. I got mine on the Martha's Vineyard ferry. There's almost like an overriding theme of the movie is the law of Zeus, which is odd because Zeus never shows up in almost any form except a little bit of thunder. Oh, is that Zeus? Maybe. Not a definitive Zeus. So it's the law of Zeus, Xenia in Greek, Xenia, Xenia, the law of Xenia, which is a little bit like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It is a law of hospitality, that you must show hospitality to people who come to your house. And it's shown all through the poem that people show up, and before they even know who they are, they treat them with respect. And usually, in the book, it's just full of sacrifices, which just get on my nerves. Oh, look, a stranger showed up. Go kill a bull. Go kill some pigs and goats and sheep. And aren't you glad we don't do that? stop by someone's house for lunch and they go out and kill a bull right in front of you and hand you a bowl of blood. Ugh. Part of this Xenia theme, the divine law of Zeus, is also wrapped up in this movie with defying the gods. Defy the gods. It's on the poster. Defy the gods. And I wrote a post on Facebook weeks ago when I first saw it, sort of taking issue with it because it looked to me, and I'm probably wrong in this, but it looked to me like it was encouragement. Defy the gods. Stick it to the man. Because defy the gods on purpose, you can defy the gods by mistake, but to defy the gods was not something a Greek would have done, an ancient Greek. So, I wish I could get out of this thinking of this movie is reflecting only ancient Greek thought. It's not. I know, I understand that, but it's just hard to get past that. So, yes. So it turns out, it seems to me, that Odysseus is, rather than the Odysseus of the Odyssey, is, so there's a greater general, Agamemnon, he's the head of everything at the Trojan War we're talking about, and there's a greater warrior, by far, greater than everyone, who is Achilles. But then there's one who's clever, who's a bit of a trickster, who's more intellect, curious, at the same time brave, very skilled with a bow and a sword and a spear, and that is Odysseus himself. And in this film, he seems to be more of a sort of boomer Vietnam vet PTSD sufferer, because he's racked with guilt. He's racked with guilt about the Trojan horse and his role in that subterfuge, bringing the Trojan horse into Troy, or having the Trojans bring the horse in. So why would he be racked with guilt over that? It's if somebody violated the law of Zeus, it certainly was not Odysseus by offering the Trojan horse and the Trojans bring it in. Let's go back further than that. Who violated the law of Zeus was Troy, because the whole thing started because a prince of Troy named Paris went to Sparta and either abducted or seduced Helen and brought her back to Troy. Now that was a violation of the law of Zeus. You go to some guy's house, Menelaus, the king of Sparta, and take his wife. And so that started the whole Trojan War. Agamemnon got involved, who was the head of everything, and brought in Odysseus, and on they go. 10 long years, 10 years on the beach at Troy. These guys are fighting. And finally, one of them, Odysseus, comes up with an idea. Hey, let's build a horse. We'll get in there. We'll have the soldiers inside. We'll come out, open the gates, and there goes the fall of Troy. And that's exactly what happened. In the poem, there is a moment when the fall of Troy is recounted and Odysseus does cry. There's a lot of crying in the book, lots of tears. Manly tears, heroic tears. It's not a weepy kind of thing, but these are high emotions. And so he does cry over the tragedy of war, but I don't ever get that Odysseus is racked with guilt over it. That's an interpretation, though. There's all those casting controversies. That's not, whatever. That's not what I'm interested in. But the depiction of Helen in the movie, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Helen. I read this kind of cool thing about Zeus. One day, must have been in a bad mood, and he decided he wanted to wipe out humanity. And who hasn't? had that feeling once in a while. So Zeus decides, oh no, I'm not going to do it myself, but I'll do it in a different way. And so he, as he is wont to do, he has some offspring, of Zeus, running around in different forms, impregnating women right and left. So one of them was Leda, and Zeus approached her as a swan. And Leda had 2 eggs. Well, she had 4, but I'm focus on 2. One hatched, and it was Helen, and the other was her sister, Clytemnestra. Now, Helen somehow received the divinity from Zeus, so she was half divine. Clytemnestra did not. She was not a daughter of Zeus. She was the daughter of Leda and her natural husband. So only Helen was partly divine. But in the film, they show Helen and Clytemnestra as twin sisters, which brings up a big question for me is, well, if they both have identical looks, why didn't Clytemnestra launch a bunch of ships too? The point of Helen is the most beautiful human being on earth. That's what she's famous for. Now, we can say, oh, well, what about her inner life? Well, yes, Helen had an inner life. We know, no question about it. But the fact is, Helen's appearance caused the Trojan War. Launched 1,000 ships. Helen herself launched the Trojan War. And so that's why Zeus said, oh, I want to destroy humanity. Let me create Helen of Troy. Because of her, thousands and thousands of soldiers would die. Not all of humanity, thankfully. But yeah, so Helen is a very complicated character. But in this, and maybe they complicate it even more, but I was shocked to see Helen, this is after the fall of Troy, years later, with scars on her face, disfigured. Helen of Troy. Oh my goodness. And I think the implication is that Menelaus, her husband, did it. Now, he would have wanted to do that. He would have liked to smite her when he got to Troy to get her. But when he did come into her presence, Helen just exposed a breast, and everything was forgotten. And Menelaus is like, oh, Helen. Now, I know many of my female friends do exactly the same thing. Whenever they have any kind of altercation, like with a boss comes in, listen, you didn't do, and their boss is like, okay, really, I wish you wouldn't do that. So Helen's there, and then there's Clytemnestra. Now Clytemnestra's a whole different woman. She is married to Agamemnon, and Agamemnon's the head general, the big cheese, the big feta cheese of Greece. And she kills him. She kills Agamemnon. And then she's having an affair with, I can't remember exactly who it is. It's some relative of some kind, like a brother-in-law or something. And she and the brother-in-law kill Agamemnon. And then they, in return, are killed by Orestes, her son. But Clytemnestra's come down as like a really scary personality. But we can't forget, Agamemnon sacrificed their daughter. Ephesia, I think her name was, sacrificed her daughter, his daughter and Clytemnestra's daughter, in order to get a fair wind, to go to Troy in the first place to conduct the war. So if anybody had a reason to, it's Clytemnestra. I'm getting off into all sorts of things. Let's get back to Defy the Gods. So I just don't buy it, that defying the gods in this instance, in this movie, was the Trojan horse. I think that was a stroke of genius. Subterfuge has been used all through history and warfare. General Lee, I think it was General Lee, at one point had logs painted black and put into as if they were cannons, so the Union troops would believe they were far more armed than they were. In World War II, the British had a body of a soldier, and they put some fake papers in his pocket and dropped him from a plane into the ocean. And the Nazis found the place where the body would be found. The Nazis found him. They read the papers and they acted on that false information. So this is, all kinds of subterfuge all through history. And for Odysseus to feel guilty over the Trojan horse is along the lines of, maybe he did, maybe this is Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer feeling guilty about creating the bomb. Or in this case, the pilots who delivered the bomb to Hiroshima. But that saved millions of Japanese lives and millions of American lives. So, it's like General Sherman said, war is hell, as he burned Atlanta. Sometimes you need to have these terrible atrocities committed. The fall of Troy, what are they going to do? I mean, do you want it to go on for 10 more years of just long slog of day after day, people getting killed? This is not, this is terrible. It's a terrible thing. But once the war is started, you've got to try to end it. Listen to me, military historian here, military tactician, as if I know. Well, I do know a little bit, but that's because I sit comfortably and read about things instead of being out there and doing it. So anyway, back to defying the gods. So I don't believe that is defying the gods. What I do think he did is not in the movie. It's not really I think he did. I know he did. It's not in the movie at all. And so that's why... let's go to the Cyclops cave, shall we? The Cyclops, in the book, the Cyclops is one of many who live on that island. The Cyclops people. Polyphemus is his name. And in the movie, this is pretty good. I wish it was expanded. Things were so many things were just not brushed over, but very quickly done. But in the book, Odysseus blinds the Cyclops, and they're running away. Finally, when they get out, before I tell you that, let's talk about what happens in the book. This is my favorite. When I was a kid, this part of the story was my favorite thing. So Cyclops has his sheep, and Odysseus, very cleverly, because he's a clever guy, so he has a dialogue with the Cyclops, and he gives him some wine, and the Cyclops gets all, oh, that's cool, man. And they have a conversation, and the Cyclops says, who are you? And Odysseus says, my name is Nobody. Nemo, Captain Nemo. My name is Nobody. And so when the deed is done and the eye is blinded, the Cyclops is screaming and crying out, and the other Cyclops from the neighborhood Cyclops come over, and they're like, what's the matter? And he goes, oh my God, somebody just poked my eye out. Well, who's doing that to you? Nobody. Nobody's killing me. Nobody's hurting me. And the neighbors are like, oh, all right, well, have a good time and go home. And then Odysseus has his guys go under the sheep, hold the they somehow attach themselves, or they hold onto the fleece, and when the sheep go out, the blind Cyclops feels the backs, and they get out. They do a little bit of that in the movie. They do it with straw, so it's still a cool thing. And what I love is it's not entirely successful in the movie, that some of them make it and some of them don't, and it was really good. But they missed one thing. When they leave and they're running back to the ships, Odysseus turns to the Cyclops, and the Cyclops, remember now the Cyclops is throwing stones, huge boulders at the ships. And Odysseus says, I called back with another burst of anger, Cyclops, if any man on the face of the earth should ask you, who blinded you, shamed you so, say, Odysseus, raider of cities, he gouged out your eye, Laertes' son, who makes his home in Ithaca. And the Cyclops basically says, oh, really? Well, I'll tell my father Poseidon about who it is. And Odysseus is like, what? Who? Your father? So here we go with the defy the gods. It's through hubris comes nemesis. Through pride comes the fall. And that was defying the gods. Whether it was intentional or not, that's defying the gods in the Odyssey. Because from that moment, that's when real catastrophes start to happen. So it was, and it's all done by Poseidon. Poseidon in this, we don't see him. I mean, we don't see him in the book either, but he's pissed off. He's really furious. And so he's like, oh, really? You blinded my attractive son? Well, I'm going to now make sure you don't get home through storms, through earthquakes, which he runs, even though he's in this, by currents, by winds, you are not going to get home. I mean, if you look at a map of Greece from Troy to Ithaca, is not that far, maybe a couple weeks, but it's going to take years because of you defying the gods. I just saw this map in here. This is Troy, so there's Greece right here. This is Troy, and then you got to come down and go up to Ithaca. It's over here. So it's not very long. I could do that in a couple weeks. Beautiful sail through the Greek islands. So you see, even in that, as Odysseus is yelling back, he says, raider of cities. That to me sounds like something he's proud of. He wants that as part of his title. What it would be on his epitaph, like Thomas Jefferson, writer of the Declaration of Independence. Odysseus wants raider of cities, which would mean Troy, of course. So he's not far from being, I'm a raider of cities. No. Now we go on a series of catastrophes. And they are, Circe turning the men into pigs, which is beautifully, so it's just very cool the way this is done. And in this version, she is a sort of a isolated midwife type witch person. Not that all midwives are witches, mind you. Heaven forfend. But, she's a Wicca. And she has a nice man-hating, you men are all pigs, and you're... So it's a good anti-patriarchy speech that she gives. Now, in the book, Circe is really, really attractive. And Odysseus spends a year with her. Odysseus is not the most, as noble and grand as he is. He's unfaithful. And who is he unfaithful to? Penelope. I love Penelope. So anyway, he's with Circe. And then Circe tells him he's going to have, the way to get home is to go to Hades and talk to some people in Hades. And so, but before that, you're going to have to go past the sirens and through Scylla and Charybdis, either the whirlpool or the monster that eats some of your men. Now, as these episodes progress, Odysseus's men become more and more discontented with his leadership. In the book, he starts off with 12 ships. In the movie, he has 3. But things go awry, all because of Poseidon and also because of Odysseus's hubris. And it especially at, I can't remember their names, starts with, let's see. I found the name, Laestrygonians. I'm not even sure I'm saying that right. That's the problem. It's often a problem when you read read things that you never hear how it's pronounced. So, like the Cyclops, Polyphemus. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that one right, but Laestrygonians. Probably easier to say the giant cannibals. And that's what they were. I didn't get a sense of these people being cannibals, but that's what they are. But in the movie, this is an artistic choice. It's just a little peculiar. It's not bad, but they come through the forest in sort of steel plate armor, or armor that you'd see in the high Middle Ages, the age of chivalry. These guys aren't chivalrous, though. Oh my God! So they're just, I guess, wandering around their own forest wearing steel plate armor, and they really tear into the army. They sailors, they decimate. Decimate is 1 in 10. It's more than that because he loses 2 of his 3 ships, and he loses 2/3 of his men in this encounter. So, it's just disaster after disaster. And again, it's all because of his hubris. This is when you start to see the decline in esteem from his sailors. I wish I didn't get this. I wanted to see him as a great general. I wanted to see a General Grant, a General Lee, a Napoleon, someone of that stature, and then the gradual decline as disaster befalls them. But I think we started off a little too, some of the sailors were a little insolent right from the beginning, insubordinate, until we reach out and out mutiny, which leads to catastrophe because, we have Circe with the turning into pigs. Then they've got to go to Hades. Scylla and Charybdis. Charybdis is the terrible, terrible whirlpool, and Scylla is the monster, 6-headed monster that can take 6 crewmen. And even there, Odysseus is faced with a dilemma. Do we go through the whirlpool, which has extreme possibility of killing everyone, or do I take the chances with losing 6 of my men? Those are, again, war is hell. You have to make terrible, terrible decisions. In Hades, in the book, he meets the ghost of Achilles, and there's a great moment that Achilles, the great warrior who died young, and here he is in hell, in Hades, and he's talking to Odysseus, and he says to him, and Odysseus like, "Oh my God, you're the greatest. You have all glory and honor." And Achilles says, "I would gladly come back as the slave of a lowly herder than reign as king in the kingdom of the dead." So what price glory? What did that, all the glory and honor? Nah. Here in this one, he meets Sinon, who is played by Elliot Page. And Sinon is is not in the Odyssey. He's in an Aeneid by Virgil, which is also, so, this is the thing. I can't get all too upset about the changing of the Odyssey, because this has been done all through history. This is Christopher Nolan's version of it. But in Sinon is played by Elliot Page, who will probably get at least a nod for an Oscar as Best Supporting. I think that's mostly political, because who should get it? If you're going to take somebody as a Best Supporting, John Leguizamo. He plays the swineherd. Later we'll come to that, but he should get at least a nomination, even though I loved his accent, because your father's coming back. A bit of a Bronx accent there. So he meets Sinon in Hades. I love that scene. There is a guy who does give a prophecy on how to get home. I think in the book, maybe I'm wrong, but in the book he says eventually Poseidon's going to relent and you will have an easy death. Maybe that's too soon to come to that realization, because Poseidon's still pissed off about his poor blinded son. My son, you'll never see again. You're going to go to this island, another island, and there will be cattle there, cattle of the sun god, not Apollo, Helios, I think is his name, but it's another sun deity. And don't touch those cows. And Odysseus like, sure, got it, no problem. They go there, and he warns his crew, do not eat the cows. No hamburgers, no prime rib, nada. And so they're like, okay, no, yeah, sure, okay. But, by this point, they're done listening to this guy who's led them into disaster upon disaster. And eventually they decide what's worse, getting killed by a god or slow starvation. And what do? Yep, they'll go kill a cow. And they're chowing down on burgers, and they're having a nice feast. And Odysseus is like, oh man, well, you're going to die. And they're like, well, we know, but this was worth it. And that's what happens. Poseidon, or it must be the sun god in this case. I'm going to talk about the gods in a minute. Wipes out the rest of the crew. Destroys the ships. Odysseus ends up on one side of the ship and the crew on the other. And the ship is smashed and everybody drowns except Odysseus, who's cast adrift on a wreckage and is found by Calypso. And I'm going to start to talk about the gods here. Calypso, in this version, is a beautiful woman who finds the castaway, like Tom Hanks, washed up on the shore, and brings him to her, whatever it is, a tent, and feeds him lotus flowers, which doesn't happen. No, there's the lotus eaters, is a different group altogether, makes the men forget. And Odysseus never eats the lotuses because he doesn't want to forget home. The whole driving force of Odysseus is to get home, the image of home, the idea of home, safety, back with your family. In this one, Calypso is giving him the lotus, so he's forgotten everything, all of this. That's not true. And in this, there's no explanation of who Calypso is in this movie. Calypso is a nymph. She's a minor deity, but she keeps Odysseus for years. Now, he does not forget home, and that's the whole point. The whole time he's he's sleeping with her like he did with Circe. So, he's not the most faithful of men, that's for sure. But Circe is a nymph, and she is divine, which brings me to the divine. So in a movie filled with monsters, very cool monsters, we have almost no divinity in the way it is in this. You'll say Circe's in the movie. I mean, Athena shows up. Does she really? I don't know if she's there or if she's a hallucination or manifestation of his PTSD, maybe something he sees in a therapy session. In the book, Athena is all through the book. She controls events. She shows up in disguise. She manipulates. She moves. She helps. And eventually, with Calypso leaving, Calypso doesn't say, "Okay, go ahead, it's fine. I'll give you your memory back." In the book, Athena goes to Zeus and she says, "Listen, this guy's been punished enough. I really like him. Will you please stop? Tell Poseidon to stop with that stuff." Well, Poseidon is down in Ethiopia, presumably partying, and he does not know this. So at that point, Hermes and Athena take the opportunity to go to Calypso's island, which, by the way, they describe as the most beautiful place. Oh my God, someplace tropical and just beautiful, not this desert-like beach that looks like someplace on the Skeleton Coast. So I wish there was more of the gods. I don't know if we need to see them, but just more presence. I don't feel divinity in this. I feel it's all human. Again, it's a choice. It's a choice. We all have artistic choices to make. Now let's talk about home, because it's such a big part of this book. Home and Penelope. I love Penelope. I love Penelope. Penelope, for years, she's Odysseus's wife, and she has spent years trying to fend off 180 guys who've shown up at her house, eaten her out of house and home. They are just absolute defilers of the law of Zeus. Really, these guys are just hideous. They're all sniffing around. They want him. One of them wants to. I mean, they all want to marry her, but one is going to marry her and thereby take the kingdom and become king. And now she has a son, Telemachus, played by Tom Holland. And Penelope's played by Anne Hathaway. I really liked her in this a lot. I love Anne Hathaway. I saw her in Central Park in Twelfth Night, and she was just spectacular. And Tom Holland plays Telemachus. He's the way he's shown in the beginning. He's sort of a callow youth, a young guy. I wish they had had more of an arc for him, because in the book, Telemachus joins Odysseus in the final battle, and he's as ruthless and as skilled as his father. But in this, he helps out, no question about it. But it's not quite what I wanted to see. I love that last scene. I loved it in the movie, and I loved it in the book. It builds up. It's such a great, glorious climax. It's so satisfying. It's like the Count of Monte Cristo kind of satisfaction. Because Odysseus comes back and he, it's a slow build-up with a lot of different things involving the swineherd, John Leguizamo, Telemachus. Penelope doesn't know it's him. And in the book, a couple other, but they're like the goat herd. So it's very few people, and he's going to battle against 180 people. There is a moment in the movie and the book that it's Argus the dog. Now it's really, I'll say it. It's the only moment in the movie that I felt some emotion. And it's hard not to. In the book too. Oh my God. So Argus is a dog. It's Odysseus's dog. He had him as a puppy. And for 20 years, this dog has lived, and he's been abused. And even in the book, he's out living on a dung heap with ticks all over him. And Odysseus shows up, and Argos recognizes him, and he wags his tail, and then he dies. And in the book, it's devastating too. I mean, it was bad in the movie too, but in the book, Odysseus reacts with a single tear, and you can tell inside he's just destroyed with grief over this. But Bertolt Brecht wrote a play called Mother Courage, and there's a scene. It's a terrible play about war, and there's a scene where her child has been killed by soldiers, and the child is covered with a blanket, and this other enemy soldier just whips off the blanket and says, "Do you know this boy?" And she looks down at him and she says, "No, but we know that she inside has been completely shattered. But if she says anything or if she reacts, they'll kill her and the rest of her children." So she doesn't. And the same thing with Odysseus. He's in disguise as a beggar. You can't just cry over the loss of his dog. And imagine how emotional it is for him to get home after 20 years, the place he's longed to be. Now he has to, he's got this battle to wage. Penelope, all these years, she has been weaving a shroud. That's her excuse. No, I can't marry any of you till I finish this project. So she weaves all day long, and at night she goes in and she takes apart everything she did. And these guys are too stupid to know that it doesn't take 20 years to weave a single garment. It's a shroud for the eventual death of her father-in-law. But they finally, one of them is like a maiden has to hear it, has to tell them, oh yeah, you know what? She's taking that apart every night. Oh my God, is that why it's taking so long? What a bunch of nitwits. So, none of them are, well, Antinous and Antinous. played by Robert Pattinson, and he's appropriately evil, slimy. Yeah. Now, you might be surprised to learn that Tom Holland in the book, Telemachus, he's almost Achilles-like. He helps his father, and they do, first of all, there's the great scene devised by Penelope, the test. If you can string Odysseus's bow and fire the arrow through axes, that's the person I will marry. None of them can do it, of course, except for one, and we know who that is, Odysseus. And I loved this in the movie. He's got sort of a trademark. Before he hunts, he just twangs his bow, bing, and that's his sign. And when he does that, Penelope turns and she knows, and that's when they all know. And in the book, Telemachus is right with him, killing. This is pretty good. This was great. I mean, Telemachus really helps out, and so does the swineherd and other loyal servants. They bar the doors, they hide the other weapons, and man, these guys are at the mercy of Odysseus. In the book, there are 12 of the 50 handmaidens. Slaves, the women slaves. There are male slaves too, but focusing on the women. And Telemachus takes those 12 and hangs them. Oh yeah, Telemachus is pretty brutal too. So yeah, I know it's I've heard that this is sort of a bit of a feminist take on the Odyssey. Possibly some of it is, but there's also a lot of this represents the chaos that falls upon the royal court of Ithaca by the loss of the father, by the loss of Odysseus. For those 20 years, everything falls apart. And it's only by the return of the father, the return of the patriarchy, and the meeting with the matriarchy, with Penelope, that order is restored to the universe. So, down with the patriarchy. No, you don't want to be down with the patriarchy in this case, because everything falls apart and poor Penelope's going to be stuck with Antinous, with Robert Pattinson. So I don't understand the end of the movie. In this case, it's almost like, so Odysseus and Penelope, rather than staying in Ithaca, get back on a boat and take off for the western unknown lands. It reminded me very much of going to the Grey Havens at the end of Lord of the Rings, and leaving Telemachus as the king of Ithaca. I just don't quite get that. It's like the whole point is to get home. I don't know. Maybe that's beyond me. Now, about the film itself, the storyline, there's some certain things in it that just... It had a peculiar blend of long passages, punctuated by rushed scenes, like the whole, I'm wondering if it wouldn't have been better to cut out a couple of things. The Cyclops in the book hurls boulders at the ships too. Maybe we could have lost the men there instead of had those steel guys. But anyway, just a little more time, the pacing of the thing. Maybe it should have been a longer movie. The things I loved the bloody things. And what does that say about me? Oh my God, I'm as bloody as Achilles. I loved the fall. I loved the whole Trojan horse, dragging it in. The guys inside, imagine being inside that for days. I don't know why they built it in a place where the tides can come in and drown a few of them. Ugh, it was not really great planning, Odysseus. You got to rethink that. But dragging it into Troy and mounting it as a gift to Athena. Yeah, that was great. And then the opening of the gates and all the things Odysseus feels guilty about in this movie, I loved. I'm like, Odysseus, you're so noble and intelligent. well, this Odysseus is. Yeah, so I love the fall of Troy, and I really did like the last scene, the battle against the suitors. That's actually my favorite part of the book. When I was a kid, the Cyclops was my favorite, but I love the way Homer builds it up. You know, it's just not just doesn't go in and just do it. It's just little by little by little by little, and the tension gets more and more, and then it all explodes. And oh, it's so satisfying. So yeah, oh gosh, I wish I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it so much, but I just don't love it. I liked it. I'm really, really, really glad I saw it. Maybe I'd go again. You know, I'd especially love to hear from other people and tell me why I should go again. What did I miss? What did I get wrong? I'll tell you what I feel I missed. I missed what I just said before, the nobility and the grandeur and I love Odysseus. I admire him. I love him. And I wanted to love him here. I did like Matt Damon. I mean, I really did like him, but I felt sort of more pity for him than I did admiration. And that's not what I wanted. And that is absolutely valid and a good choice. I mean, it's a fine choice if that's what you want to do, Christopher Nolan. I mean, I think it certainly says a lot. You know, it's an anti-war film, and the brutality of war and the brutality of men, if you want to come down to that. Let's have more male bashing. But I don't think it's male bashing. I think it's it's a modern take on we're not like the ancient Greeks. We can never be. Thank God. These pre-Christian times, you think about Rome, and the value of life was very small, and of human and animal. I mean, we kill animals to eat them, more's the pity. But we don't, thankfully, show up at a neighbor's house with a goat and kill it just before we have a brunch. And the value of human life is just simply not the same. So this is a good, this is fine. I wish I could see a version of this directed by Peter Jackson. And why? Because I missed that. I missed the Battle of Helm's Deep with 1,000 defenders and 10,000 attackers and huge surging armies. I wanted to see that overblown, overdone spectacle of death and destruction. Even Troy, I mean, as much as I loved it, I was looking at those walls. I'm like, 10 years? You couldn't get over that in 10 years? Man. So, yeah. Okay, so I hope this didn't distress some of you who loved it. I'm very happy for you. I really am, because it was an experience, and yeah. So that's all from me. Maybe I'll go again. Let's go. All of you come from all over the world. Come like Odysseus coming home. We'll slay a few suitors, and then we'll all sit down and watch